Do you ever get that feeling if you do something else that maybe you'll find those keys that are probably in your other pair of pants, and that's why you can't get into the shed? And so you figure, well, I'm just going to talk about farm roads because I can give you another example that expands on a previous video. I'm Justin Hitt from Prosperity Homestead. I can't find my keys to the shed that are normally in my truck. So let's talk a little bit about farm access roads and clearings in the woods that are going to be spaces for storage and going to be spaces for access. So this on satellite is a hard road that existed back in the day, and it probably existed in 1950s, 1960s, and you can see a little bit of gravel here, but the actual road is in the woods over there. So what I had to do on the LiDAR is figure out which was the harder of the two spaces. And I really can't I don't want to walk into the woods, but basically there's a small narrow road over there. And then this one on the satellite map was a much wider, harder space. And so you can tell that by the gradients in the LiDAR maps, and there's a variety of tools. But this is an example of a farm road. And if we stay off of this road after rains, we're gonna end up with grass out here. In fact, I gotta mow this now that the sun's on it. So our roads and access points are gonna open up the woods. More sun is gonna reach the ground. If we seed this with a pasture blend or some kind of grass, we're gonna get, or native grasses, which is preferred, we're gonna start getting some of what's basically kind of a pasture or a meadow. And I just noticed these deer prints coming in here, and we get a lot of traffic from deer. But when we open up these paths in the woods and we have grass on them, we're gonna have more browsing activity. So we're actually increasing the calorie availability to our deer, and you can see more grass down there, and our access to other wildlife. Now, here's probably a good example. There is the old access road, and you can see how the trees are scarred from old barbed wire fence. And so there's that old road right there. Now again, the LiDAR said that what's behind me was a harder landscape, and this has got small trees on it. So this will make a good path. So we'll clear it for a path, and we'll clear it by getting firewood, which will open up the woods to allow more of these oaks to prosper. But more likely that's gonna be, see that road's on the top of a hill, more likely that's gonna be where we step in an electric fence, and then through these little trails, connect the other side of the electric fence over here, and then we let goats, basically run through there and do their thing. Now, every one of these paddocks or these cells that we're setting up, so if we put fences on the perimeter of the property and we have cells inside these certain paddocks where we're grazing animals, each cell is going to be a consistent size, so we know how long it takes the animal to run through. But each space on the property is a inconsistent density of food. So by opening up these trails and these roads, and by keeping them as farm roads, I could let grass grow here knee high, and I could bring in goats to bring it down. Now, you don't want to bring out pigs on hard roads, but you might use the hard road to move pigs. So if there was a fence line here, and we had pigs in a section over where I'm facing right now, and then we opened a fence up on the other side, we could just move the animals across the road. Meanwhile, we can bring an ATV in here with a trailer, we could bring a truck in here with a trailer, and we can bring and move water, shelters, and other food, things like that. Because these woods aren't going to be that nutrient dense in the winter. So you can see there's not a whole lot of, even though we've opened up the woods, there's not a whole lot of growth in here. And we're into fall, and so goats will strip this stuff. So that cell is going to be moving day by day throughout the property and recovering as more light reaches the bottom of the forest. But you may notice that just over on the other side of there is another trail. So we use the anchor point of this hard road so we can get things in, and then 100 feet from here or 200 feet from here is another trail in the woods. So essentially, I could bring a water buffalo, those big tankers, full of water. I could bring it up here, park it, and then I could run a 200-foot hose this way or a 200-foot hose that way and be able to put water on a cell or on a paddock. Now, again, cell grazing, I may have to move every day, so I don't necessarily want to move the water buffalo every day. So I want the water buffalo in a place where the cells could move around the water buffalo. I could have a chuck box on a trailer with animal feed or minerals or anything else the animals are going to need. I could have a shelter that I can take down off the trailer and take into the woods for them to shelter. But essentially, I'll park the water buffalo, run 4 cells around the water buffalo, then I'll move the water buffalo, maybe after a week, 4 cells around the water buffalo again, and then keep moving through the woods. So I'm minimizing the movement of my heavier equipment while the animals are on foot. And again, you can see this is why the LiDAR maps tell me that this is a harder surface, because there's rock in here. Now again, this is not necessarily rock that got dumped here when they built the road. This could just be years of compaction, and this road eroded less than the other roads. Because I actually do have an old farm road that's actually probably 6 foot of an erosion. It's got to make a better finger pond than an access point. But do you see what we're saying here? So again, there's an old road down there in the woods that's probably 8 feet wide. It shows up on maps, but it wasn't the desired road, and you can see that line right there. There's a line. It shows up on maps as an actual access point that goes off the property. But we didn't open it up because it is not a hard road, and we have better utility value using it as a trail, this as a hard road, and then another trail out there in the woods. And I'll show you real quick, because I'm just gonna walk in here. Imagine dropping your electric fence. See, I don't have to do a whole lot to get over to that road that's just on the other side of that hill. And so, and you'll notice there's old rock piles in here. So the farmers before collected rocks from the field and threw them in little piles. And then they had access. Oh yeah, here, we'll go there real quick. See a rock? And now again, this is why we talk about exploring your property. Explore your property before you start cutting roads. Because as you can see, I just very quickly walked right down to what is a road. Now, it don't look like a road. Looks like an animal trail, but it's actually a road. And at one time, it had traffic on it, and it showed up in a map, satellite map, because it was at one time either a county road or it was one time a farm road. And you can see how there's some big oak trees here. See, the big oak trees were on the side of the road. Actually, this kind of path out, there's a path here, and then down here is another access point. So, and you can see by the size of the trees next to it. I'm getting a little distracted by the mushrooms. And then you can see, we'll real quick look at these mushrooms, because there's an animal trail in here. See some mushrooms. And then you can see where I've come through before and cut some stuff out. And so we've got, and I'm not going to take you the whole way, but I can just, you can see how there's where we were before. Okay. Here's an old road. Here's some old trees that I'm going to come back and check out these mushrooms later. Look at that. But again, there's a big ditch. So do I want to take the time to build out this road when I got a better hardscape up there and the risk of erosion here? I can turn this into a trail, as I've done just by walking it and cutting it. I can get a cart back here to clean up some of this trash. That's, again, another point of evidence that this was a road, because people dump trash back here. And I'm going to have to clean more of that up. And as we're moving through here, we get back to, there's the hardscape road. If we grow grass out there, we got feed. This road has potential erosion issues where they push dirt out because the road had been maintained. See that? Again, when you come out for a class, you'll know why I just cut, chop and drop on the trails. and how I'm finding these roads, and I don't have to build anything. In fact, everybody, see, the history of your land is important. Everybody who's gone before me has already decided, well, that road was too close to that ditch. So to prevent erosion, I'm gonna move the road up the hill. They moved the road up the hill. It turned out to be stronger, harder, and much easier to drive on. You can see the grade difference between that and this. I favor the best road, but these access points and paths give me access to put fence down here. Because again, I don't want my animals, and again, I'm always picking up trash back here. I don't want my animals going down in there. That's an exclusion area. But real quick, when I wrap this up, I follow the little trail, which is a road. As it opens up, it starts to get more grass, and the cycle repeats. See the grass? And then, oops, spiderweb. And then I come up through here. See, they capped off the road because they said, don't go down here anymore. Boom, we're back on the hardscape road. And we've got secondary trail to connect to. And see, now I'm out on the other side of my storage. So if I'm running animals through this in different cells, I'm reconnecting with my trails. I've got access for my heavier equipment. I've got secondary trails to get into a new paddock area. Even here, the other trail I think is 300 foot through the woods there. So I can work the animals around the edge, and then we get back on the trail, work them around the back side of the trail. And there's footpaths in between these different roads. Now, again, we don't want people riding ATVs through those footpaths. That's the problem I've had lately. But basically, we've got footpaths just wide enough for an electric fence. Footpath is 4 foot wide, but just wide enough for electric fence. I've got footpaths that connect from trail to trail. And actually little camping pads and stuff in here as well. But I can work from trail to trail, and I'm not gonna walk all the way over there, but there's the trail right there ahead of us. Do you see how it works? It all starts going together. So I didn't have to clear the whole property to start benefiting from the property. I didn't have to spend a lot of time, money, or resources to get little camping sites and to get little things. I looked at how the land expressed itself. Actually, this is a cool little camping site. We're gonna stand over here and finish up. I looked to see how the land expressed itself. I identified historical uses of the property. Actually, this not only has, this has got deer bedding in here. So I can see scrapes. I can see bedding. Rather interesting. Oh, and I see some mushrooms coming up. So I look at how the land expresses itself. I don't destroy the habitat. I expand the habitat. I look at how the soil interacts with the forest. You saw that on the other side of the road over there, it is more hardwoods. On this side, it's more pines. By working with the land, we're going to better protect the land. But it means having a smaller footprint. The smaller footprint on the land, as this opens up, we're going to start getting more hardwoods coming through. We're going to start taking down some of the pines to use as building materials. We're going to leave little nooks in the woods like this. Animals are going to find it as good shelter. Mushrooms are going to grow. It is a biological system that we are not the masters of. Instead, we are the good stewards who observe, who interact, who extend. And again, look, that's that I cut this. You can see these little pieces are cut. They're just dropped on the ground as fodder, as feed for the soil. Again, that's why we're using forestry mulching rather than coming through here and just, you know, cutting down the whole forest. And then even our little walking trails like this could be flail mowed. And so we end up with pick. That's kind of coppicing back. We end up with access where we can put fences. We end up with a pathway for prosperity on this homestead. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. I hope you'll write with your questions. It is a huge, you're missing out not writing, because there's so many things that we're doing here. Like you can see where we pollarded this part of the trees in the woods, and we cut down some places to get access. You're missing out on so much. In 12 months or less, you could have go from raw land to healthy homestead with animals, with trail systems, with abundance. We're gonna grow enough food here to plug into a cooperative farm network. And then through that, we're gonna serve hundreds of families in our community. Not only that, we're gonna create food security for ourselves. We're gonna create recreational enjoyment. While I still haven't found my keys to get into the shed, we're gonna have opportunity for those who are involved here. Now, there are some opportunities to learn on site, but there are better sites which I'm interacting with that you can visit. So when you visit www.prosperityhomestead.org, go to the contact page. If you're interested in hands-on learning, there's an even better site down the road that's a permaculture design and demonstration center. And you can work there. You can visit this site. I can go visit you on the other site as well, but they have hundreds of acres. This demonstration is a nomadic farm caretaker going from raw land to homestead, and it's on very small acreage. You don't need a lot of acreage to do this. And then of course, as the caretaker, I'm going to walk you through my journey as we implement many of the things that I've known and learned over the years. That implementation is going to help you see this in action. And then you'll notice things like that tree has lower branches. This tree does not. Again, because some of these walking trails have been cut through the woods or expanded animal trails, they allow me to put a fence from one side to the other to create a grazing cell. On the other side of that white tarp, there's another trail that goes that way. And then this pie shape here is a grazing paddock. And then notice over here is a grazing cell too. Anyway, as the animals get in place, you're going to see the woods clear up. You're going to see a lot of this stuff as I'm describing it, but in the initial design phases, we can help you that without you traveling anywhere. We can help you with satellite imagery. Now is the time, because the technology is better than ever. LiDAR maps, stuff that you used to have to buy time on satellites to use. I can show you how you can see your property, historically see your property, know what was on that property, get reconnected with the land. It's very exciting, and I hope you'll become a part of what we're doing here. Visit us at www.prosperityhomestead.org to ask your questions. I'm Justin Hitt, and I'm looking forward to hearing of your successes.